no way I could say, hey guys, sold the company, whether it's a strategic buyer or private equity, a financial buyer, I would have no idea what the future of the company would be, especially the culture, right? So there's no way all these people who were so dedicated and loyal through the Valley of Darkness and after, I could never do that. I could never look them in the face and say that. The only avenue for me was to sell it to the employees through the ESOP process.
The sound of that tractor means it's time for us to go to work. We want to welcome you back to the Give Us the Dirt podcast, powered by Hoopaugh Grading Company. My name is Brandon, and I am your host. We were just talking about how we have been out of the studio for probably about 3 months now. We've taken a long break, and it feels good to be back in the studio again. The room feels the same. The chair's been the same. I did bring this in. This is new. We actually have Hoopaugh Grading water now. I didn't know that. Evidently, we're making water now, so that's new. But it is good to be back in. Thanks for letting us take a little bit of a break over the last few months. We are excited to kick off 2025 with an incredible guest today. Today, we've got someone who's not only made incredible impact in the construction industry, but someone whose story, wisdom, and character I have come to admire. If you've been hanging out with us in the Dirt World community over the past few years, you've almost certainly heard of this guy and his incredible comeback story. I'm talking about none other than Ryan Schmitt, the CEO of Petticoat-Schmitt Civil Contractors. Ryan leads the Jacksonville-based company, which is known for its expertise in underground utilities and site development. But here's the thing, Petticoat-Schmitt isn't just about getting the job done. They're about doing it safely, investing in their people, investing in their community, and investing back into this industry. That's exactly the kind of leadership we'd love to highlight on this show. Ryan, it's so good to have you here. Welcome to the Give Us the Dirt podcast.
And I'm excited to be here. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that overly generous introduction.
And well deserved. That's man, you've kind of taken on celebrity status in the construction industry. What's that feel like?
Man, I don't know about that, but I tell you, if there's ever a feeling of like you're in your element with the people that you want to be around and should be around, that's definitely the feeling that I've had, and it's been great. It's funny. I saw, Aaron and his social media presence many years ago. And as soon as I saw what he was doing and some of the things that were going on and the people involved, I'm like, man, there's my people, man. He is doing what my philosophy is and, where my heart is. So, fast forward over the last couple of years when the summit started and then some of these workshops, and it's been awesome. It's been a great opportunity just to be around like-minded people who are, people first, and, trying to buck the trend of, there's no good people out there, and, just getting busy and working and developing our own. So it's awesome. And I look forward to more of it.
Yeah, it's a great community. And matter of fact, that's where you and I met at one of the conferences, Dirt World Summit. We've had the pleasure of running into each other a handful of times at some of those, but it is a great community. It's pretty cool what those guys have done. And, what's crazy about it is, they utilize tools that had been around a long time. We were just late to the game in the industry. And we started figuring out it's okay to promote ourselves. It's okay to talk about our industry. We've got to take control of our brand and the narrative. So they latched onto a need that all of us saw out there, but none of us were doing anything about.
Yeah. And another thing that was really great was it unearthed people out there who are doing the same thing in our local community. I didn't see a whole lot of that, but then I got introduced to you guys and Sargent and, some of these other companies who are doing the same type of thing. And it's been an awesome opportunity just to, be around peers who think about construction and people first. Culture's the same way.
We're going to have a good time today. We're going to, you know what? I just wrote down that. I saw what you did there with the unearthed. That was good.
I like that.
That was good.
Yeah, more to come.
That was good. I like that. What's the weather like in Jacksonville today?
Man, it's finally not freezing. We've got some good typical Florida weather. We're in the 70s. I think we're getting to the 80s this weekend, but glad you didn't ask me that a couple of weeks ago. It was snowing just west of town here.
I heard about that. That's
yeah,
rare.
yeah, that is very rare. So I'm glad those days are past.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was feeling. I was like, man, we go crazy with the threat of snow. I can't imagine what Florida does.
Oh yeah, it was it was almost like COVID was happening again.
Right.
People are like, we can't go to work, right? What are we doing? I don't know. It was crazy.
Just shut it all down. Well,
no doubt.
you are the first guest of the Give Us the Dirt podcast for 2025, and I figured this is you. You've got a big keynote event coming up. Aren't you going to be a keynote speaker at the Dirt World Summit this year?
Yeah, I am. I was honored to be asked to be one of the keynote speakers, so I'm looking forward to that.
I told the team here. I said we got to get him before he hits that. After that, it's going to be hard to get him anymore. He's going to be charging us.
Yeah, my fees might be double.
That's
right?
it.
2 times 0 can get really expensive.
I said get him while we can. So
yeah.
Well, Ryan, I want to talk a little bit. Let's dive into your story. Let's unearth your story a little bit. Tell us about how you got introduced into the construction industry.
Yeah, so it was very much by accident. When I was a young man and, looking at my post-high school opportunities, there was only one thing in my mind back then is I wanted to be a Florida Gator. Man, I wanted to go down to the University of Florida and be a Gator. And so I was fortunate enough to do that. I don't think they'd let me in these days, but thank goodness I got in then. And so while I was down there, I was kind of good at the social skills and some of the stuff that went with that, but maybe not so much in academics. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do anyhow. So I graduated from the University of Florida. I had a criminal justice degree, and that coupled with no idea what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to stay in Florida. My father, who was in construction, not related to our business, but so he got moved around a little bit, while I grew up in the area just south of Jacksonville, a community called Orange Park. They moved out of Florida, and I was not going. I'm a Florida guy, so I stuck around and staying with friends and sleeping on couches, whatever I had to do. But I stumbled into a construction company and got a very entry level job with my shiny college degree. Got my $7.50 an hour job, and didn't know anything about anything, and started to learn. What I quickly learned is I had a passion for this industry, and I'm like, man, this could be it. This is my career. So went back to the University of North Florida, got serious, studied, got a construction management degree, and then I went on and got an MBA after that. And it's amazing when you're convicted and passionate about what you do, how much better you can do academically. So anyhow, I was with this company that I started with for 17 years, and the last 12 of those years was actually the general manager and kind of this secondhand guy, and grew it and had a great opportunity and really learned a ton. And
what kind of work were you doing, Ryan? What kind of company?
So they were pretty much exclusively site development, doing a lot of clearing, grading, pipe work, road work for subdivisions, multifamily, single family type stuff, all private. Very similar to what you guys are doing, and what we do today. A portion of our work, we do a little bit more than that now, but so that's where I cut my teeth, moving dirt and laying pipe and building roads. And thought that was, man, there's nothing better. I love building stuff. I love the people that go out and build it, the teamwork and the finished product, and man, what you can do as a team. Because I've always grew up playing sports and just getting right people on the bus and going out and accomplishing stuff. And so that's the passion I had for it. And, I had a great opportunity there and was able to help grow the company. And then left after about 17 years. I knew it was time for me to go and kind of chart my own path. And I didn't have a clear path at the time, but I knew I wanted to go find one. I knew I wanted to do it on my own. So not too long after, I had the opportunity to buy a company. And this is right before the Great Recession, or kind of going into it. And there was a woman who owned a company called Petticoat Contracting. That's where the Petticoat-Schmitt comes from. Petticoat Contracting was owned by a lady I've known for many years, very strong leader, in the community and in the industry, and built a nice business, but unfortunately was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at a relatively young age, unfortunately. And so she was looking for an exit strategy as we were coming up to the recession and starting the recession. And so we kind of put together a unique structure for me to buy the company. I set up Petticoat-Schmitt separate from Petticoat, and was able to, buy any assets that we needed, and then brought her people over. And it was a very small operation at that point, but it was a great opportunity to get into the industry. And we started out just doing public works type projects, working for the city and DOT and our local utility, doing water and sewer work and grade work and road work, but all public work. And that's all that was really going on at the time. But we were actually so lean and mean, and any piece of equipment or truck or anything that we bought was, we needed it. It was going to be busy. So we kind of had a little advantage of, all the other, guys who are sitting on all this huge fleet of big iron, coming out of the heyday of pre-recession. We were lean and mean, and everything we had was fully utilized. And I miss those days, but
I bet you do. Yeah, we do too some days, especially on those weeks where you get the rain and everything. But being lean and mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Ryan, that's interesting. A lot of times we talk to folks saying, "How did you get into the industry?" You started by saying it was an accident. It truly was. Like, you had no experience there. Didn't have a lot of people pointing you in that direction. Really came out of college. There you are with a criminal justice degree. Did you have plans for that degree, or was that just you just circled something?
I was. I was the kid who kind of flipped through the course catalog once a week. What's my major this week?
Right.
And
yeah.
One of those weeks I stumbled into a criminal justice class and thought, well, this is interesting. Well, I guess I'll just say I'm going to law school after I graduate. And I graduated and quickly realized that was not the path for me. But I knew I wanted to get my degree, I wanted to get out, and I said, I'll figure it out then. So the figuring out part took a little longer. I had all these, great friends who were graduating from that great program down there. They're getting their normal, first professional job out of college. And I was like, scrapping around, figuring out how I'm going to feed myself. My parents moved out of town, and hell, $7.50 an hour didn't sound too bad, right?
Hey, we got to do something. We got
no other option, right? You got to do it.
But how true is that, you go through school, and I think about people that, kids that will go through college, they'll get a degree, and then they'll roll right into a master's, they'll roll right into this, but you're missing the experience of being out there and really understanding what you love, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, how it applies. And so you had that opportunity to get out and realize, all right, that might not be my track. I've got something here that I'm interested in. Now I'm going to go back to school and hone my trade right here. I'm really going to get in and understand how to do this.
Yeah, I was just telling someone the other day, during that time, this was, a couple of years between, graduating and getting that first job and then going back to school. In the meantime, I was interviewing for, your typical graduate professional job, of which obviously I did not get. And I think back and about, man, how grateful I am I didn't, because if I did just get one of those type of jobs, I might have just kind of cruised through and never discovered what I wound up discovering after going through that adversity and not knowing what I wanted to do, then stumbling into construction and muddling through, a very meager, compensation structure at the time. Justifiably, right? I didn't know anything, and then going back to school and all that. And thank goodness I didn't get those jobs I interviewed for. Because I found, I go back and look at a lot of this. There's always greatness on that other side of adversity. And, because of that, challenge and adversity, I was able to get out and, find my passion. And once I did, man, things took off. They really did.
I was when I went to App State, I was business management, and there was my senior year. I had to get one more elective class. I saw criminal justice on there, intro to criminal justice. I thought, you know what, that'll be cool. I'll take that one. Easy A. I'll kind of ease through that class. I was about a month into that class and failing the class. I thought, this is supposed to be my easy class. This is an elective, and ended up getting out of it. But that was no joke. I mean, to have a criminal justice degree, that was not easy in itself.
Yeah, well, it's funny how classes. I remember I took an intro to weather class when I was in the University of Florida. Like, how hard can that be? That almost killed me. That was like your story, right there. I mean, it's almost
All right.
sometimes the easier the title, the worse it is. I
I
don't
feel
know.
better. I feel better now after hearing
Yeah,
that. So thank you, Ryan. Well, so 17 years in, you've got this entrepreneurial spirit about you. You used a word to describe your feeling that I actually wrote down when I was thinking about this episode today is passion. You know, every time I see you, you just exude passion, passion for this industry, passion for the work, passion for the people. You know, how did you, when you're 17 years in, that passion starting to develop, and it so much so that you said, I want to do this on my own. Was that always part of the plan, or you just decided, hey, I can do this?
it really wasn't part of the plan. When I was working previously, I was kind of, and I valued and understood the risk that the owner had, and I was kind of the number two guy, and um, he was generous at how he compensated me. I realized that I had my opportunity to grow the business. I was able to make, and have a good compensation package, but then just things in life happen, and we didn't see eye to eye, and I'm like, I think it's time for me to go. So when I did, it's like I knew I wanted to stay in the industry, and I knew I wanted to do it on my own, and I had a ton of opportunity to go to work for people, but I said no, I'm going to figure this out on my own, and that's when I discovered the opportunity I had to buy Petticoat Contracting and start Petticoat-Schmitt, and that again too, go back to the saying, there's greatness on the other side of adversity, because that was a challenging time. I navigated that departure, because it was tough. It was, a little unexpected. And so when transpired, looking back on it now, I'm like, man, thank goodness it happened. It did, it was a tough when it did happen, but man, it's really catapulted me into, where we are today, which I'm, very proud of. And, starting up, it was, going through that recession, we had some challenges, but
Because that was
not as many.
2007, right? You started.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right there, heading into it.
Yeah. Which, quite honestly, things actually went pretty good during the Great Recession for us, because we were so lean and mean, and our skill sets were in that public work, that small municipal work, and we had our small fitted equipment perfectly suited for it, and we did fairly well. But it wasn't until a little bit later where we had our real challenges, and that's what I've been speaking to a lot during some of these dirt road summits.
Isn't that's interesting that, there we are getting ready to go into this recession, but that lean and mean approach actually helped you survive it better than most. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I have this. This y'all are gonna laugh at me. This is stupid. I'm thinking Forrest Gump, right? The one shrimp boat out there that survives this storm, and then all of a sudden everybody else's fleet is destroyed, and here you come. Like, man, we're still at it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were just like that. We had like one pipe crew, one grade crew, and one punch out crew, and man, any and everything that happened, everyone knew all about. And I started renting just some office space from Petticoat Contracting, 3 cubicles, literally, just rented 3 cubicles, and that's what I operated out of until I gradually rented more and more, and then had all of her space until we eventually moved out and bought our own building about 5 years in. So it was lean and mean, and you know, every bucket of dirt, was intentional and closely observed, and done with high oversight, and just desire to survive, so to speak.
Wow, define lean and mean. What did the company look like back then? How big was it when you took it?
Yeah, we're like probably 28 people, total company. And like I said, we had, one of each type of crew: pipe crew, grade crew, punch out crew. But we all could do a little bit of everything. Had a couple mechanics, and I literally would, buy a backhoe here, buy an excavator there. So very lean. We didn't have company trucks. We just did some truck allowances because we didn't have many people. Basically one superintendent, and then we got two superintendents, and so yeah, we were really just focused on being really efficient and getting the work done. And man, we had some, and still do, just loyal, great, committed employees. Some of them are still with us today from that time.
That's a testament to just the leadership and the culture that you've been able to create. Ryan, do you, as you look back, and I'm sure there's so many moments, but are there a handful of moments where you said that was a pivotal moment right there that changed the trajectory of the company forever?
Yeah, so like I mentioned just a minute ago, that those, I don't know, I look back on those very first few years. Um, we actually did pretty good, right? And I was almost kind of looking for that proverbial entrepreneurial punch in the face, right? Oh, the hardship, it's getting started up. And when we started, it went pretty good. But, fast forward, about 8 or 9 years in, we started what I've coined the Valley of Darkness. We started out doing just public works projects. And then when the economy started coming back in about 2012, we started doing site development work, which I was previously doing with my prior employer. And then 2014, we started doing treatment plant construction when I brought over a key leader in our company who's now actually our president and COO. So we saw a lot of growth in our first 8 or 9 years, but then we had a couple jobs that were pretty substantial, and we had some issues, and we had some owners that were just not partners in the process, and we got punched in the face pretty substantially. In 2016 we were kind of flat, 17 flat. 2018 we lost a pile of money, and probably the very bottom of that valley of darkness. We had a big DOT job that a bid day. It looked like the best bid you ever saw. But when we go out there and started building it, we're digging this large pond, and the geotechnical reports just didn't quite right. And we hit the aquifer, and we just could not dry it up. And the owner was basically took a very adversarial stance and said, "Get it done. We'll file your claim. We'll see you in court." And we had about two other jobs very similar, either had differing site conditions or a bad design, and owners who basically said, "Hey man, pound sand, we'll see you in court, get it done." And we finished those jobs, but lost a ton of money. But when we did pursue it legally, we never saw a courtroom, but we did settle. And when you settle for 30 cents on the dollar, and we prevailed in principle on all those, we were right, and they admitted it. But settling for 30 cents on the dollar over millions and millions of dollars worth of work is just no way to run a business. And it put me in a spot where I basically had to recapitalize the whole company. Any assets that I owned personally that had any equity in them, I had to sell. I was fortunate to have a friend in the construction business who offered me a nice loan to help get some cash into the company, and we refinanced our entire fleet of equipment. Mostly short-term payments, or paid with cash. Went to 5 years out and restructured that with a lot higher interest, of course. And so anything and everything to do a business turnaround and recapitalize the company. And meanwhile, I'm staring at the ceiling every night, laying in my bed, and fortunately, I had a group of business owners and a peer group, a coaching group that I was part of. And they were the first ones I told them, like, "Guys, man, I don't know what's going on here. I could lose the whole thing." And kind of had an emergency meeting. And they said, "Well, first thing you need to do is go tell your wife," because I haven't told anyone.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And, that was a great day, because I heard from her, like, "Hey, if we lose everything, it doesn't matter as long as we're together." And I'm like, "All right." And just got busy every day, get up, walk into the punch, and figure out how we're going to solve this problem. And, between, like I said, selling anything I had that had equity, taking loans out, going into our bank line, refinancing all our equipment, yeah, man, it was tough. And then, we're fighting through, and, again, these jobs, we settled, you know, just, 30 cents in the dollar. You're really not doing much. And so we came out of it. And then that was about 2019. We're coming out in 2020, COVID happens. And we get a punch in the face with work not starting up, even though we were deemed essential. But quite honestly, the PPP funds came available, and quite honestly, that saved our bacon. Really, having those
Sure.
PPP funds was huge for us. I mean, we used every dollar to help save the company, and needed it desperately, and so, but it caused us to look at the business and some of our operations, and the right people in the right seat, and so I was every day. I mean, I read every and any book about business turnarounds, construction. It's out there. I probably read it, because it was tough. I use the analogy of you trying to repair a 747 as it's nosediving and smoke's coming out of the back, and you're trying to repair it on the way down, and you're not knowing if you're going to hit bottom or not. We weren't sure, but we were able to kind of right the ship, and get it back up, and during that process, just learned a ton, right? And learned a ton about myself, learned a ton about how the business was being run, how we selected clients, obviously, how we put the right people in the right seats for the right jobs, and then moving forward, and through that all, we went open book. We showed, and I've always been open book with my leadership team, but I went open book to everyone. I figured, like, man, and the book, The Great Game of Business, was pretty inspirational to me on that. That's all about open book management, written by Jack Stack. And I was like, man, it's bad, and people know it's bad, but I don't want them to think it's any worse than it is. So, I went with a philosophy of let's show exactly how bad it is, but also, like, hey, how are we going to get this back? And was very open and transparent about, our plans to right the ship and get it back, and what we're going to do to move forward. And, as bad as it was, and it was bad.
You're not lying,
Nope.
Ryan.
Yeah.
It just sounds gut wrenching. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
term "valley of darkness" that sounds exactly like what it was, and I don't think people realize, for business owners like yourself, how quickly that can happen. One bad job can just flip you upside down in this industry, and it doesn't have to be because you did something wrong or screwed up. You picked the wrong client.
Yeah, and one job, and then you get two on the heels of it, and you're like, two of those three jobs were the same client, and then the third, but of all the same, cut from the same cloth, right? Don't have a spirit of partnership. Don't want to help solve problems. Basically, tell you to keep going. We'll see you in court.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You know,
it doesn't take but one or two of those. It doesn't matter what size company you are. Any company is vulnerable. You get one or two of those jobs, and I don't think people understand the risk and the stress that it puts on a business owner like yourself to be in that situation. But one thing I heard as you were telling this story, and it just my heart's breaking for you. I know it's gut wrenching because I can imagine that came with a lot of stress, a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of weight that you were carrying on your shoulders as the owner of the company. But one thing I never heard in your story was quit. You talked about restructuring. You talked about peer groups. You talked about coaches. You talked about reading books. You talk about transparency and conversations, hard conversations, but you never talked about giving up. Did that ever cross your mind?
not once, not once. Because I didn't even know how to quit. How do you quit that? I mean, did you just run away? I didn't even know how to quit.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to quit. I knew this company was destined for greatness, and I knew that we could get to the other side. And we had a strong leadership team. After we did some restructuring, right people, right seat, and it was just a strong commitment to get through. And every day I thought I'd put my feet on the floor and go, all right, let's go. Walk into the punch. Walk and say it to myself every day. And like, all right, figure it out. I'm gonna figure it out. And then just after it seemed like an eternity getting through it, then you start seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, and days got better, and we figured it out, and we learned a ton. Putting different things in place, and learning a lot about our people, and what we needed to do. That transparency became huge. It basically crafted who we are today. I mean, we look at the books and we look at the financials of the company, with the entire company, every week, to this day, every single day, and everyone knows where we are. And it really made me proud, blessed, and honored to where I'm going through this. And like I said, it could have taken me down personally to the depths I couldn't even begin to fathom how deep it would be. But no one jumped ship, and we got through it, and
everybody stayed with you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing, right?
And they saw some big negative numbers at the bottom. There were some huge negative numbers, and then even when we got out of those negative numbers, we still weren't able to pay bonuses or incentives, whereas during those times, a lot of other companies were, and people still did not leave. And so
why is that, Ryan? Why do you think they stuck with you? Because that's uncommon, right? Most people would cut bait and say, "This is I'm on the Titanic here. I gotta jump." But why do you think it is? Why do you think they stuck with you?
I think it's the power of transparency, and that's you probably heard me speak about that at the Dirt World. Is I'm like, man, okay, I'm sharing everything with everyone. This is how bad it is. These are the jobs that are losing money. Everyone knew where we stood, but everyone also knew, what my passion was, where we wanted to go, what we were going to do. There was no quit in any discussion. It was just conviction. And I heard people say some things that, even if they didn't say it directly to me, I'd tell people like, yeah, I have opportunities to go, but I believe in Ryan. I believe in what he's saying. I believe, and to me, that's like one of the biggest blessings I could have ever asked for. That people would believe in me so much that they would see beyond a bleak picture financially of where we were. And so we continued to invest in our people, invest in the future where we could, when we had the few resources at the time to do it. And as we came out of that, and that's when we came up with these incentive plans where we started sharing profits of the company. And everyone sees it's not a subjective bonus; it's a formula, and we show it every Monday afternoon, still to this day. Hey, we do good here. This is what everyone else, the whole company gets, and then ultimately led me to start thinking about, as we came out of the Valley of Darkness, is like the future of the company. And that's where it's, there's no other way I can exit this company other than selling it to the employees.
And I want to
loyalty and commitment.
Yeah, I want to talk about that, because obviously you guys made it through the Valley of Darkness. You've turned it into an incredible company that is very successful and thriving now. And I want to get into some of those steps that you took to do that, but I don't want to leave this without our listeners hearing how some of the things that you did to survive that time. This whole walk into the punch thing. I love that. I love that analogy. I love the into the storm philosophy. It's the bison, right? The bison is the only animal that will charge into the storm when everybody else is running away from it. It's like, let's just get through it quicker. And so I love that mentality, that walk into the punch. But then also, you took this people first approach to the leadership and creating this culture, but the transparency piece of that. I think that is critical. And I have heard you talk about that, but I don't think we can talk about it enough, because that instilled trust at a very, very uncomfortable time where no one knew what was going to happen. You didn't even really know, but you were transparent, and that created a sense of trust. And I'll even vouch for you. You talk about being transparent with your team and with your leadership group. You've been transparent outside of your company with us. You invited us in to say, hey, let me show you how we're doing things. You opened, you invited us to your leadership meeting, and we got to sit in, and you talked about numbers and performance and things that were good, things that were bad. And so I love that transparency piece of your culture. And I think that was critical to you guys being able to do what you did. So hats off to you. Walking to the punch, people first, transparency. That's the secret to getting out of the valley. All
Yeah,
right.
no doubt, and it's catapulted us to where we are now as an employee-owned company. And man, I tell people I'm Ryan 2.0. I'm more excited to be part owners with the business, with the employees of the business, than I ever was as the sole owner of the company. And it's real exciting.
So let's talk about Ryan 2.0, because that's a really cool story in itself too. You talked about the ESOP. When did you do that? What made you do that? And how has that really catapulted you to where you are now?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, on the heels of coming out of the Valley of Darkness, when we stabilized and we're starting to be profitable again and things are looking good and we're building up our coffers, I really started thinking about what I was going to do with our leadership team. Some of our key leaders, I wanted to give them a stake in the game. What did that look like? Giving them actual ownership, phantom stock. So I started thinking that. Then I'm like, well, I need to think about my whole big picture. What is the long term? What's my exit strategy? What am I going to do? And so I went deep into that discovery of that. And, I've been exposed to ESOPs and employee ownership a little bit. The Great Game of Business I mentioned earlier, they talk about that. And there's a couple other instances where I came across it. But, so I started thinking about it. And I studied each and every avenue. And I wanted real skin and opportunity for people. And so, the more I thought about it, the more I studied it, there was no other option for me, because there's no way I could say, hey guys, sold the company, whether it's a strategic buyer or private equity, a financial buyer, I would have no idea what the future of the company would be, especially the culture, right? So there's no way all these people who were so dedicated and loyal through the Valley of Darkness and after, I could never do that. I could never look them in the face and say that. So it became clear after a while that the only avenue for me was to sell it to the employees through the ESOP process. And the more I studied it, the more I like the process so much better anyhow, because, I can still, I sold 30% of the company last year. The goal is to sell 100% in 5 years once we get through the first transaction, paying down that, because as a large transaction it is, it's hard to go all at once. And so even when we get to 100%, you can still be involved as the founder, because the way you set up the board and all that, and you can still control the culture of the company. So that to me was very attractive, giving people the opportunity to amass wealth that they otherwise could not through the employee plan is awesome. My next goal in life is to have our first millionaire through the ESOP. And that's going to happen. Can't wait to see that. And so it really, the more I studied it, I was so committed, and I actually announced it to the company even before we did the transaction, because I knew we were going to do it. And if it got delayed, it still was going to get done, because that was going to be the only route. And real quick, it's kind of a funny story how I told the group we were having our annual anniversary party like we do every fall, celebrated on the incorporation of the business. And we came off a great year, and this was not last November, but the prior November. And I said we had a great year, real proud of everything we've done, and it's got me thinking about the future of the company, and we've done well. And I've decided it's time for me to sell the company. But it's okay. I think you are going to be real happy. This is going to be a great thing. And I think you're really going to like the new owner too. And in fact, I think some of you in the room know the owner. We had the entire company in this big room. And I said, in fact, they're here today. The owner's here today, and I want to introduce you to him. I step off the stage, and I had this big mirror back there, and I got the mirror, and I just held it up. And
That is classic.
Yeah,
that is classic. What a great way. I bet they were holding their breath while you were going through all this.
Yeah, I think people went through the module of pissed off, excited, confused, and so that was in November, and then it was all about education after that. We talked all about it, and we wound up closing last May of 2024. So and now it's just been awesome, just talking, communicating, because my goal is not to have it in the background is just some more retirement opportunity. No, I want to create this robust culture of ownership thinking. We're all owners. We have new hire orientation, and I'm in every one of those every week, and we talk about, hey, welcome new employee owners, and I walk them through like the first hour and a half. We talk about the history of the company, and I get to know them personally and all that. We also talk about employee ownership, like, hey, you guys are, employee owners, and this is what it means, and this is how it works, and so it's been awesome. And I've had some great counsel like Herb Sargent Construction, who we know well through the dirt world, and some other people, and they've been great examples and great mentors. And now I got some people talking to me about it, and who are excited to explore it. And I just think it's a great way to create a succession plan for the business. And my goal with Petticoat-Schmitt is that it lives way beyond me, that I'm out and there's future leaders and they're doing great things with it, and that continues to grow.
Well, what a great story. Congratulations, first off, for being able to get to the finish line on that. That's not a small feat. There's a lot that goes into that. And like you said, a huge education component and just restructuring. But I love the part that, you hear a lot of people that go the route of ESOPs and, why this route versus other routes, but you didn't want to be out of the business. You weren't done. You still wanted to be there. You still wanted to be working. You just wanted to create a legacy for your team that the company could survive after you. But an ESOP is a great way for you as an owner to shed some risk, to pull some chips off the table, but also protect the company and the employees long term by giving them some ownership in it. And is that the biggest part of the biggest benefit of doing ESOP? A lot of times is that ownership mentality. And people looking at the business and their work and their role in it and the profitability a little bit different than they did prior to. Is that what you would say is the biggest benefit?
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits, but that's a huge one. It complements our people first philosophy. We talk about that all the time. Our cultural people first, and so to get the best people, we want to create an environment and a culture that attracts the best people, and then we want to compensate and reward them like they're the best. And through our what we call the win the year incentive, where we pay out a share of the profits to the entire company, and then the long-term opportunities through the ESOP. It's a part of that formula, because we know in the future to grow, it's all through the quality of our people. And hopefully this is in place to help create that opportunity, and we can draw great candidates and create a place where people really want to come to work, to do great work, be in a great culture, and then also make a great opportunity for building wealth for them and their family.
Do you have team members that are already seeing that wealth, they're getting their statement and they're looking like, okay, all right, I see what he's talking about?
Well, it's still early, and it's funny. I've talked to a lot of people in the ESOP world, and they said it takes a couple, 2-3 years.
Yep.
When people start seeing statements. We haven't even had our first statement yet. We're actually going through the valuation after our first partial year. We're not even a year into it. So right now it's all about just communicating. October was National Employee Ownership Month across the country. So we went around to all the job sites in the office, and we had pizza pie parties, and hey, here's your slice of the pie, right? So we had pizza, and I would talk all about it, how it works, and field questions. And so we're just trying to do the boots on the ground education and communication. We have a ESOP communication committee. We're doing all types of things. We have an internal app where we can do a lot of discussions and talk about stuff and explain how it works. And so when we hit that 2 or 3 years and people see, a few years of statements, they see the financial impact, and they also understand how it works. So I'm real excited to see when that really starts getting a lot of traction.
I am too. I'm excited to see it too. Those are great stories. I know Herb shared a few as, several years. Like you said, it takes a little while to build that up. But then one day you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, I've got what? This is being held for me. I didn't put anything into that. Not one dime of my money went into that.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, talked to a lot of people, and Herb, he was great. He actually came to our last anniversary party the year after I announced it, and he brought one of his operators. And so between Herb and his operator, they got up in front of our whole company and told their perspective of their ESOP journey, which was phenomenal. And then talking to some other companies, there was a local industrial contractor here that I met with, and he was telling me all about the nuts and bolts of it before we went. I'm like, well, what else? What, you have any great success stories? He goes, oh yeah, we got, a handful of guys who are still working who have over $1 million balances, waiting for them whenever they leave. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
That is so cool. So cool. Ryan, I want to ask you about something. So now, you're trending in the industry. I'm one of your followers on LinkedIn. I see your stuff you're putting out there, and I paid a lot of attention. I've been seeing a lot on this Elevate 20. What can you tell us what that's about? What is that all about?
Yeah, so coming out of the Valley of Darkness, we're like, all right, we got to like fine tune our processes. How are we doing things? What are we doing? And we worked with a couple of consultants. We looked at just how we did things internally, and so we figured we kind of got this recipe that from beginning to end of a job, how we get it, to how we pre-plan it, to how we communicate it through the industry, how we use scheduling. We're a big P6 scheduling company. We use TAC plans now, which is kind of a unique scheduling process. But people first. We have what we call an Elevate 20 meeting, where before we ever put boots on the ground, our build team will give a presentation to our executive team how the job's going to get built, from budget to schedule to the risk and opportunity analysis. Every item of risk or opportunity, we map out what's it going to cost, or what could it benefit, what's the chance of it happening, who's responsible for it. Our cadence of meetings is real important. We have these huddle boards on our jobs that are real important. They're in every job because every superintendent runs their huddle, and it's got all the information. Our goal is every single person on every build team knows all the details of the job. We want all the information that is in our industry has usually been in the superintendent's head. It's got to be on paper. It's got to be communicated. We're big respect. We want clean restrooms. We want sit down break areas where people can have their lunch, right? The guys out in the field, we want a highest level of respect for them, highest level of information, communicate, what success looks like. We use HCSS so everyone knows the budget. They know if they're beating or not beating man hours on the day or the week or the month or job to date. And we provide all this information, and we have this really strict cadence of how we build the jobs, not only our meeting structure, definable features of work, how we use project controls with safety. We have QC elements through our QC department, where everything we do are definable features of work, whether it's laying the sewer, pressure pipe. We got QR codes where guys can watch videos of how it's supposed to be done. We do time and study analysis so we can see where we're, losing opportunities to improve, just not by just working harder, but working smarter. So all of this we kind of packaged into what we call, and this is just a summary, it goes deeper, but it's Elevate 20. And we actually put a trademark on it, and we're real proud of it. And we do lunch and learns with design engineers and clients and potential clients and municipalities, and just to have that discussion. And then we turn around like, hey, how this is how we do what we do. What can we do to help serve you better too? So it's been a great commitment. I mean, you go to the U.S. government and you trademark something, you're pretty much saying, hey, this is how we do it. So I think it stepped our commitment to our processes as well too. So we're real proud of that. It's we're constantly working on it, right? Keeping disciplined. That discipline is a big part of it. You can't just say that's what you do and it happens. So, but it's basically our project delivery system.
What a cool system. And you're right. It's amazing how many problems and issues you can eliminate just by having a solid plan, so a backup plan, and clear communication on what winning looks like for each of these projects. So hats off to you for that. I'm very interested in that. That sounds like a cool thing. And that's something you're really good at. I remember when you invited us to kind of listen in, you called it the best meeting of the week. Is that right?
Yeah, our Monday afternoon meetings.
Yeah, the Monday afternoon meeting, the best meeting of the week, and it was just going through and communicating, understanding how each department, each resource group was doing, and but again, focusing on that transparency, clear communication, and defining success. you've got a history of being able to create some of those processes. That's really cool.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Ryan,
Yeah, another.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, another thing we're talking about, trademark and stuff. Another thing we're real proud of kind of came out of after the Valley of Darkness, and we're about to have our one coming up is our Digger Day. Much like your Dream On 3, our charitable focus is and we've trademarked Digger Day too. The first day we called it Dozer Day. We got an attorney from a letter from an attorney, excuse me, and saying we couldn't use Dozer Day. So I said, all right, well, we're going to call it Digger Day and we're going to go ahead and trademark it. But anyhow, we bring out kids and their families who are battling childhood cancer, and they get to operate equipment. We set up all the equipment that we use, and we set up a bounce house, a DJ, a pizza truck, face painting, pipe mazes, and anyhow, we have like very secured, little corridors where these kids can go out there. They sit on the lap of our operator, and they can operate everything from an excavator to an off-road dump truck to rollers and loaders, and they just have a great time. And man, we see all the smiles on their faces and their parents' faces, and quite honestly, our team's faces. We kind of just happened into it about 4 years ago, and we made it an annual event, and it's coming up in April. And that's something, again, just being people first and kind of focused and giving back to others. We're real proud of that. And again, we trademarked that thing as well too, and kind of told everyone out there, hey, this is what our team is all about.
How cool is that? So somebody had a Dozer Day already? That was already out there?
Oh yeah.
Man, I love that, Ryan. And, that's another part. It's a really cool part of the culture you've created is that winning, and I mentioned this in the intro, is that winning for you is not just profitability. It's not just winning as your company. Winning means you've invested back into your team, into your community, into the industry. And so I love that part of your culture. That's something that's near and dear to my heart. And here at Hoopaugh Grading, we love investing back into our community. So that sounds like a really cool event. I want to come down to Digger Day next time. When is that?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Come on. This year, it's April 12th.
All right. I'm going to figure it out. I'll be ready for some Florida weather by then.
Yeah, come on. But I would like to say you guys up there are doing some awesome things, and we've collaborated as companies. Our training and development managers has gotten with your team up there and picked her brain and gotten some great ideas. And I joke around. I said, yeah, Hoopaugh, they're like our big brother up there. They're a real big brother, man. We want to grow up and be like them.
Well, I tell you,
keep up the great work.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And we've enjoyed the collaboration and the partnership too. A lot of what we're doing, we learned from you, the transparency part of it. Why hold on to these things like they're secrets? We all need to be doing things the same way. That's the only way the industry is going to improve, and the only way that we're going to see movement as far as changing the perception of our industry. So a lot of the things we modeled from being a part of your meetings and hearing some of the things you're doing, but I appreciate your kind words. I want to kind of close this thing out asking you to look in your crystal ball and tell us what we can expect. We were coming into 2025 hoping we were going to get a little breath of fresh air and things would settle down a little bit. Here we are, first week in February, and it seems about as crazy as it's ever seemed. I don't know if the fog is lifting or we're lighting the fuse. I don't know right now. What do you see as far as impact to our industry? What to expect this year? What do you see?
Yeah, we're projecting a really big year. I talked to our team just this week about 2024. We planted a lot of seeds. We started the ESOP. We actually bought and remodeled and have a new office. Did some really good things. We didn't actually put as much work in place as we planned. We had some delays from one of our bigger clients, put a kind of freeze on projects, and we had some permit delays that while we were profitable and had a good year, it wasn't as big as we had hoped. But looking back, it's like, man, I'm really proud of the seeds that we planted, and because of those seeds, I think it built a stronger, wider, and deeper foundation for us to take on the bigger workload we're going to expect this year, which I think is going to be real substantial. And I think, our industry in our area in the Southeast, I think we got a solid 4 or 5 years. Beyond that, it's hard to tell, but everything is really looking up from what we're seeing, and we're real excited for it. And, like I said, we're building that foundation to build, a strong team, strong processes to really take advantage of that. And what I'm seeing too, I know you're excited about it, and I am. And our Dirt World community is growing, and our people first commitment and the trades are being seen in a better light than they have been in many years. And I'm fired up about that. And our vision, is to disrupt the construction industry by putting people first. And so what we're doing, I want to take beyond the walls of Petticoat-Schmitt and, out to the dirt world and just let everyone know what phenomenal their opportunities there are in our industry to make a great living and be part of something bigger and not just be a number.
What a great message, Ryan. I can't think of a better way to close it up than that. 4 or 5 years of sunshine. We got a bright future ahead of us, and I appreciate what all you are doing for this industry. I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your story. What a great message. So thank you for coming on today. Thank you for being the first guest of 2025. I look forward to seeing more of you. We're blessed to be able to do this alongside of you, blessed to know you, and excited to hear more of what you guys have coming up over the next couple of years and to see your keynote at the Dirt World. I'm looking forward to that too.
Well, Brandon, I appreciate it. You guys have been a great inspiration for us and the industry, and it's been a real honor to be on the podcast and chat with you. I always enjoy it and look forward to doing it soon in person.
Ryan, thank you again. It was great to have you.
All right. Good seeing you.
Thank you for digging in with us on this episode of Give Us the Dirt, powered by HGC. If you liked what you heard, make sure you leave us a rating and a review and subscribe now on our Apple, Spotify, or YouTube channels so you never miss an episode.